And then, nakikita nyo na yung screen. For the last topic of the, for your prelim period, so this is our last topic. We'll be talking about the microscopic examination of urine. So this is divided into two discussions, one for on-site and the other one is will be handled by your online instructor. So I am tasked to discuss the urine sediment constituents aside from the urinary casts and crystals. Okay, so for your online instructor, he will be talking about the casts and crystals, which are also sediments that can be seen upon microscopic analysis of the urine sample. Okay, but other than that, we'll talk about the other sediments. Okay, so urine sediment constituents are commonly found in the urine sample. So every time that you perform routine urinalysis, of course, kayo ba ay nakapag-perform na ng routine urinalysis? Or naka-experience na kayo na mag-perform ng routine urinalysis? Yan. So kung may idea na kayo how to perform routine urinalysis, then you know that the urine sample will be centrifuged first, and then the sediment, which is located at the bottom of the test tube, right after the centrifugation, will be placed onto the glass slide for viewing. Now, not all of these sediments will be placed because remember not to overflow the glass slide, because the amount of sediment that you will be using for routine urinalysis will be affecting also the results na ilalabas natin. So remember, we are looking into sediments per microscopic field. And so if you will be adding too much or like an overflowing amount of sediment dun sa glass slide, then more likely, mas marami rin yung counts na makikita natin per low or high power field. So it's very important that you will use just enough amount na magko-cover lang doon sa cover slip, not overflowing. Hindi rin naman yung konting-konti lang. Kasi kapag ganon, more likely, magkakaroon ka naman ng false negative. So, false positive kapag overflowing and then false negative naman kapag sobrang konti. So, just the right amount of sediment will give you a more accurate result when it comes to the sediments that you'll see under the microscope. Now, we don't really have an established normal value pagdating sa mga urine sediments because as we have mentioned before, you have to be familiar, of course, with the uh, diet intake of the patient, with the medical history, kung may underlying medical conditions ba yung patient. Kasi at the end of the day, nakarely doon kung may pathological or non-pathological significance ba yung nakikita nating sediment. Okay, so for example, the most common sediment that you'll see is blood cell or RBC. And sabi natin, hindi naman sa lahat ng pagkakataon ay normal or abnormal na makakita tayo ng RBC. So, kapag may menstruation ng pasyente, automatic, hindi siya nagiging abnormal. Pero kapag wala namang menstruation ng pasyente, pero marataas ang counts ng RBC niya, then it has something to do siguro with a damage to the renal system. So again, be familiar with the information of the patient. Okay, yung patient data natin. And when we release the results of these sediments na nakita natin, we don't have absolute values like whole numbers talaga, but we give a range, sample range nung nakita natin. So for example, pag nag-release kayo ng result at nakakita kayo ng WBC, hindi tayo naglalagay na 0 talaga or let's say 20. Ang nilalagay natin dyan is not an exact number but a range like 0 to 2, 15 to 30, yan, which indicates that around that an estimate, nandun yung roughly ganun kadami yung nakita natin sa high power field. Of course, all sediments should be read under high power field. So scanner, low power, and then ultimately sa high power field tayo be-base ng nakikita natin na sediment count. Okay, so let us talk about the different urine sediments. And again, the most common is RBC. So RBC, I am not sure if you have seen this under the microscope using your urine sample, but I know you have seen this in a peripheral blood smear. So you are familiar with the characteristic of RBC in blood, PBS. But in the urine, this is how your RBC looks like. Now, it has the same characteristic kung paano nyo siya nakita sa PBS, non-nucleated also by concave, and the size approximately 7 micrometers. Now, the thing to note here is that the characteristic of RBCs change or vary depending on the specific gravity or on the concentration of your urine sample. So normally, if your urine is of a normal specific gravity like 1.010, ganyan yung nakikita natin. But if your urine is, say, over-concentrated or over-diluted naman, nagkakaroon siya ng special characteristic. Okay, so first, for hyperstenuric urine. Now, if your sample is hyperstenuric, and when you say hyperstenuric, this is a, tawag dito, yung mataas ang specific gravity. So for urine specimen with high specific gravity, meaning overly concentrated, dehydrated ang pasyente, the RBCs appear to be crenated. So when you say crenated, like what you see in this picture, the size of the RBC tends to be a little bit smaller compared to the normal size of the biconcave disc, and also you'll see like a tiny spines or protrusions doon all over the edge of the RBC. And the main reason kung bakit naging crenated ang RBC natin like this is because in hyperstenuric urine or kapag overly concentrated ang urine natin, nag-shrink sila. Diba? So yung principle ng osmosis. So your RBCs or the cells shrink due to water loss. Since very dehydrated ang pasyente mo at low amounts lang ng water ang sinisecrete natin sa urine. Kaya nagiging irregular yung shape nila and they appear as crenated RBC. Now, opposite of crenated RBC naman, we have ghost cell. Now, the one I'm showing you is that of a blood sample. Kapag naman meron tayong hypostenuric urine or an overly diluted urine, a well-hydrated patient, RBCs can appear as ghost cell. So, when you say ghost cell, kagaya ng nakikita nyo dyan sa arrows na yan, their color is more pale. Okay, so paler ang kanilang color, like papunta na sa clear or transparent color. And bakit nagkakaroon tayo ng ghost cell in diluted urine sample? Again, principle of osmosis, if your urine is diluted, too much water, so the cell will absorb excess water, it will swell, leading to bursting, secreting the hemoglobin, the pigmented substance. Therefore, nawawala ng color yung RBC, kaya nagiging paler yung kanyang color compared to the normal pinkish or reddish color na meron siya dapat. Okay, and one thing to note is ghost cells may lead to false negative result. So, bakit nagiging false negative result? Kasi nga, mahirap siya makita. Hindi siya kagaya ng crenated cell na madaling makita. So, bakit ba mahirap makita ang ghost cell? Kasi nga, close to transparent or to clear yung kanilang color. So, it's very important that as medtech, alam natin kung paano mag-manipulate ng microscope. And when I say manipulate, you have to use a good light source, not too bright. Kasi kapag sobrang linaw, sobrang liwanag ng light source mo sa field, they will appear invisible. Kaya magkakaroon ka ng false negative. So, ito yung times na kailangan natin gumamit ng medyo dim na light source than the normal para mas makita natin yung outline ng ghost cell para hindi tayo magkaroon ng false negative. And again, ayan, high power field ang ginagamit nating microscopic field um, to write your counts. Again, for RBC, wala tayong absolute values. Hindi tayo naglalagay ng exact numbers. So usually, ayan, ang normal na RBC na dapat makita natin is around 0 to 2. 0 to 2 lang. Kapag yan ay normal patient, walang sakit, and negative for RBC. Pero kapag sobrang dami, let's say may menstruation, nag-urinalysis pa rin, or sadyang may glomerular bleeding, you'll report it as TNTC or too numerous to count. Or minsan, range like 40 to 50 or 50 to 60. So, ganun yung counting natin. Okay, so what is now the difficulty or the challenge when it comes to identifying RBC? So first is, most commonly, these are mistaken as yeasts or yeast cell. Bakit natin napapagkamalang yeast cell ang RBC? So for one, they are of similar size and shape. So kung paano natin nakita yung RBC kanina, ganun din ang itsura ng yeast cell. However, kung kayo ay matagal na sa field ng medtech at sanay na mag-microscope, hindi kayo magkakamali dyan because RBCs don't have buds. So wala pong budding ang RBC. Ang yeast, may budding yan. So, you have to look for buds like this, yung para silang string, sunod-sunod sila, kasi meron kang parent cell and then you have the daughter cell. So, magkakadikit yung mga yan. Ang RBC, hindi po sila nagkakaroon ng budding. Okay, so that is one way to differentiate them, if not the size and the shape. Okay, next is, they are also mistaken as oil droplets and air bubbles, also starch. So these are examples of oil droplets, air bubbles, and oil droplets. Now, kung medtech ka, hindi mo naman dapat yan mapagkamalang RBC kasi number one, ang size ng oil droplet and air bubbles ay very different. Mas malaki sila. Although may mga, kagaya ng nandito sa picture sa taas, may mga droplets or bubbles that can appear as the same size, kagaya ng RBC. Now, what will you do to check if it is an air bubble or oil droplet? Okay, so one way to check is you have to check if you are in the correct microscopic field, because normally air bubbles and oil droplets will not appear in the same field as the RBC. So kapag nasa ano lang yan class, nasa pagfo-focus lang yan kumbaga. Kapag mali ang pag-focus mo, yan ang nakikita mo. Kaya minsan, pag nagpapacheck kayo sa mga instructor nyo, kung ma'am, tama po ba itong nakikita ko? Minsan, yan yung nakikita namin. Kasi mali yung pagkaka-focus nyo, wala kayo sa tamang field. And yan yung nag-i-indicate. Pag nakakita kayo ng bubbles or air droplet, ng oil droplet or air bubble, yan yung nag-i-indicate na wala kayo sa tamang field. So you have to refocus, taas baba ng stage para makita nyo yung RBC na nasa tamang microscopic field. Okay, so that is how you differentiate. Plus, they are refractile. Itong oil droplet and air bubble. So when you say refractile, mas liwanag yung color nila, like the edge or the outline is brighter, and they are of a perfect most of the time perfect circular shape, o yung parang spherical na, close to spherical na yung shape nila. Ang RBC, wala po tayong makikitang perfect talaga na shape, like a circular shape. Okay? And then again, you have to correlate that sa reagent strip. Hindi naman pwede class na nag-positive ka sa reagent strip for blood, and then pagtingin mo sa microscope, wala namang RBC. Hindi rin naman pwede na negative ka sa reagent strip, tapos ang daming makikitang RBC sa urinalysis. Okay, so again, you have to correlate with your reagent strip result. And now, let's talk about now the clinical pathological significance of RBC. Now, when a patient is diagnosed with glomerular bleeding, kalimitan, ang RBCs, they appear as dysmorphic. So, when you say dysmorphic cells or dysmorphic RBC, like this, they appear as irregular in shape, and meron silang multiple protrusions, Yan, parang nagkakaroon sila ng spines. Ayan. Protrusions like that. Protrusions. And then, they are hypochromic blems. So, hypochromic, ibig sabihin, they are paler in color than usual. So, dysmorphic RBCs symbolize pathological significance pagdating sa visualization ng RBC. So, you have to check if it is a normal RBC or dysmorphic RBC. And of course, ang amount or ang count natin depends on the severity of the disease. So, kapag matagal na may renal disease ang pasyente, mas marami na tayong dysmorphic RBC na makikita. Unlike kapag yan ay early renal disease pa lang, medyo konti lang yung ating nakikita. Okay, so yan yung na-mention ko kanina. So damage to glomerular membrane or vascular injury is often associated with your RBC. And the number of cells that you see represents the damage, the severity of the disease. Again, pag mas marami yung cells natin, mas severe na yung disease. Kaya meron tayong tinatawag class na macroscopic and microscopic hematuria. So what is the difference between macro and the microscopic hematuria? So when you say macroscopic hematuria, again, hematuria is the presence of RBC in the urine, and your urine appears cloudy red, as opposed to hemoglobinuria, wherein your urine appears clear red. So now let us differentiate hematuria based on macroscopic and microscopic. So pag sinabi nating macroscopic hematuria, these are patients na nagsasubmit ng cloudy red na urine, as in color red. Pag sinabi nating microscopic hematuria, ang kulay ng urine ng pasyente ay yellow pa rin, as in the normal yellow straw color. So bakit siya sinabing microscopic hematuria? Because after centrifugation, kapag nilagay mo na yung sediment sa urine, dun mo lang makikita sa microscope na may RBC doon sa urine ng pasyente, even though it has a normal color. So, microscopic siya. Now, alin ang mas severe? Macroscopic or microscopic? Of course, the macroscopic. So, kapag talaga nakita na natin macroscopically na may presence na RBC doon sa sample, then syempre, mas severe na yan. So, example natin dyan, ayan, trauma, acute infection, coagulation disorders, and then kapag microscopic, yan, early glomerular disease pa lang. So, hindi pa siya advanced. And of course, take note hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon, ang microscopic hematuria ay associated lang sa disease. So even kapag kayo ay nag-undergo na heavy exercise, pwede ka rin magkaroon ng microscopic hematuria, non-pathological microscopic hematuria because of extensive or heavy exercise. Okay, question so far? Thumbs up ako kung walang question before we proceed. Okay, so if you have questions, don't hesitate to interrupt me during discussion. Okay, next, common sediment na I'm sure na nakakita na rin kayo niyan is WBC. And we all know that WBCs tend to increase in number when the patient has infection. Kaya nga kapag ang patient ay may UTI, madalas ina-associate natin yan sa positive WBC, hindi lang sa reagent strip, but of course doon sa urine microscopy. So comparing WBC to RBC, they are larger, a 12 micrometer compared to 7 micrometer. And in terms of the characteristic, alam natin na this is nucleated and granulated. Hindi kagaya ng RBC na non-nucleated siya. Kaya hindi natin pwedeng mapagkamalanha at walang magkakamali na mapagkamalan nating RBC ang WBC kasi malayong-malayo ang itsura nila. So example natin ng WBC and RBC sa isang urine sample. Ayan. So you have the granulated WBC and then you have the non-nucleated RBC. Now, out of all the different WBCs, the most common kay predominant is neutrophils. So similar lang rin sa PBS natin. ang pinaka-common highest percentage na makikita natin sa PBS is neutrophil or polymorphonuclear cells. So they are granulated with multi-lobed nuclei. Okay, so let us talk about the neutrophils. Now, not all neutrophils or WBCs in this case can be pathologic. So again, sabi natin kanina, yes, we associate it with infection, which is correct. But one specific type of neutrophil, which is called glitter cells, are classified as non-pathologic cells. Okay, so non-pathologic cells like glitter cells only appear in hypotonic urine. So when you say hypotonic urine, ano ba siya? Diluted or concentrated? Pag sinabi nating hypotonic urine, ano yun class? Diluted or concentrated? Anyone from the class? Yes, Ella.
Ma'am, I think po diluted siya.
Okay, so hypotonic urine is diluted urine, meaning nagsisecrete tayo again ng excess water sa urine. And neutrophils appear as glitter cells like this. Yan, kasi sobrang bilis nilang gumalaw. If you're familiar with the Brownian movement, producing a sparkling appearance. And if you stain this using H&E, kulay pink sila. Pero they often stain as light blue if you will use other stains like Sternheimer-Malbin stain. Okay, so I think nasa libro yun. Okay, Sternheimer-Malbin stain. So that is another stain that you can use if you want to visualize glitter cell. Only for diluted urine. So hindi po tayo magkakaroon ng glitter cells for hypertonic urine or concentrated urine kasi nagdi-decrease yung Brownian movement because of the loss of water kapag hypertonic ang urine natin. So kapag marami lang tayong water, dun lang nagkakaroon ng kapag sobra yung water molecules natin, dun lang nag-exhibit ng Brownian movement, therefore producing the glittery appearance ng neutrophil. Okay, non-pathologic. It's just because of the urine concentration. Okay, another type of WBC, not really seen sa urine, although yan, may mga cases tayo na nakikita yan, is eosinophil. And we know that eosinophils are related with two most common diagnoses. Number 1, parasitic infection, and number 2 is allergic reaction. So kapag ang pasyente mo ay may allergy or may parasitic infection, lumalabas rin talaga sila sa urine. Although, syempre, ang eosinophil is like 1 to 4% lang yan sa PBS. Kaya hindi rin tayo mag-expect na sobrang dami yung kanilang counts pagdating sa urine. Now, in terms of renal diseases, eosinophils are commonly associated with drug-induced interstitial nephritis or commonly known also as acute interstitial nephritis. Pag sinabi nating drug-induced or acute interstitial nephritis, this is an example of a renal disease which is exacerbated by an allergy to a specific drug. And itong allergy na to, nag-a-appear siya after a week of taking this. And common yan sa mga pasyente na hindi naman nila alam na allergic sila dun sa drug. Kasi nga hindi po mabilis yung manifestation ng signs and symptoms. It'll take a week bago ka magkaroon ng manifestations. Usually, ayan, rashes or respiratory difficulties. Yan. And of course, syempre, sa kidneys. So, yan, minsan mahirap umihi. Yan, drug-induced. Again, allergic reaction. Kaya nagsisecrete tayo ng eosinophils. Aside from that, you can also see this sa UTI, since infection yan, WBC, and renal transplant rejection patients. Okay, if you want to visualize eosinophils, the best stain that you can use is Hansel stain. So when you use Hansel stain, they will appear as purplish pinkish color. Kaya madali natin siyang makita. Ayan. And again, sabi natin sa PBS, 1 to 4% lang yan. Kaya yung makakita tayo ng more than 1% sa urine, significant na yan. So hindi po siya kagaya ng neutrophil na kailangan nating makakita ng too numerous to count na dami. So dito, yung more than 1%, or kahit sabihin na natin na sa counting, siguro mga 5 to 10 per field or 5 to 7 per field, significant na yan. And kapag may ganun tayo, you have to refer the sample sa further testing. Hindi lang yung tigil na tayo. Kasi nga syempre, indicative yan ng acute interstitial nephritis. So, kailangan nating mag-perform ng cytocentrifugation para pag sinabi nating cytocentrifugation, mas i-concentrate natin yung sediment para mas ma-identify natin na maayos kung eosinophil talaga yung nakikita natin. Okay, other types non-WBC, we have mononuclear cells. So mononuclear cells are the collective term that we use for the other types like lymphocytes, monocytes, macrophage, and histiocytes. And they are very rare na makita natin sa microscope. Although, nakikita rin natin, usually number one, lymphocytes, they commonly resemble RBCs because of their size. Now, remember, lymphocytes are the smallest WBC. So, medyo magkalapit lang sila ng size ng RBC. But again, kailangan nating i-check yung characteristic ng lympho and RBC. And usually, pathologic or of pathologic significance kapag nakakita tayo ng lymphocyte, especially sa mga early transplant rejection patients. And ayan, kailangan natin ng cytodiagnostic testing. So dito, we have to clearly identify the type of mononuclear cell na nakikita natin. Now, another important thing to note is you have to differentiate WBCs with renal tubular epithelial cell or yung RTE. So RTEs are epithelial cells, and yan yung we'll go into that after this WBC. Okay, so pag sinabi kasi natin RTE cells, yan yung kaisa-isang klase ng epithelial cells na may pathological significance. At mas malala pa sila kaysa sa WBC. Sabi natin WBC usually UTI yan. So nagagamot. Pero pag sinabi natin RTE yan, it indicates severe tubular necrosis. So that is way more severe compared to UTI. Kaya kailangan ma-differentiate natin yan. Otherwise, ayan, baka mag-release tayo ng false result sa patient, di ba, or sa doctor. Yan, so important yan. And, yan, paano natin ma-differentiate ang WBC from RTE? Yan, you can use two ways. Number one, supravital staining. Or number two, you can add acetic acid. So, acetic acid enhances the nuclear details of your WBCs para mas makita natin siya ng ayos. And then, syempre, in terms of size kasi, mas malaki naman ang RTEs compared to WBCs. Okay, so there we have your epithelial cells. Okay, so epithelial cells come in three types: squamous, transitional, or urothelial, and renal tubular epithelial cells, or RTEs. And the name varies depending on the location from where they came. So, kapag squamous, usually yan ay nasa vagina, sa male and female urethra, and these are the first structures na madalas nating makita sa urine, kagaya nito. Kung kayo ay nakakita na ng or nakapag-perform na ng urinalysis, I'm sure familiar kayo sa itsura ng squamous epithelial cell like this. So, they are the largest cells in the microscope. Then you have transitional or urothelial cells which came from the bladder, the renal pelvis, ayan, other tawag dito, yung ibang parts na yan, and then RTEs, renal tubules. Now, ang epithelial cells ba ay pathologic or non-pathologic? Sabi natin kanina, ang RTEs, pathologic yan. Ang squamous and urothelial cells, they are usually non-pathologic. So, normal po na makakita tayo niyan sa urine sample. Okay, first we have squamous. So squamous epithelial cells, again, are the largest cells in the urine and they are good for focusing the microscope. So sabi natin kanina class, malalaman natin na nasa maling field tayo. Maling field kapag ah, nakakakita kayo ng oil droplet or air bubble sa field. So that is an incorrect field. Pero kapag nakakita na kayo class ng squamous epithelial cell, that is an indication na nasa correct microscopic field na kayo. So you can use that as a way to practice para makita nyo nasa tamang field na kayo. And again, they are reported in high power field pa rin. And sabi natin, squamous epithelial cells are common. Hindi po siya abnormal na makita. Sabi natin, normal na lumalabas yan kasi saan ba galing yan? Sa lining ng genitourinary tract na dinadaanan ng urine. So especially kapag old na yung cells, yan, matanda na yung lining, nagpipeel off talaga yung mga yan. Kaya sumasama yan sa sample natin. So hindi po abnormal na makakita tayo niyan. However, kapag syempre nag-increase more than the normal amount, kapag nag-increase tayo to the point na patong-patong na yan, contaminated na yung sample natin. Especially kapag halimbawa catheterize yung sample natin. So pwede tayo makakita niyan na sobrang dami. And ayan, kapag hindi midstream clean catch, nagko-contaminate tayo ng squamous epithelial cell. So, paano ba tayo mag-report niyan? So hindi po natin binibilang yan kagaya ng blood cells ha. Ang reporting natin ng epithelial cell is qualitative lang. Like few, rare, moderate, numerous. So ganun lang po tayo mag-report ha. Hindi po natin nilalagay yung number. Okay, so again, sabi natin, hindi po pathologic yan. In exemption for the clue cell. So normally, ang squamous epithelial cell ay hindi po pathologic maliban na lang kung ang pasyente ay may vaginal or bacterial vaginosis. So when you say bacterial vaginosis, the patient has a infection doon sa kanyang vagina and this is caused by a bacterium which is Gardnerella vaginalis. So Gardnerella vaginalis causes the squamous cell to become pathologic and we call it clue cell. Paano natin masasabi na clue cell yan? So this is an example of your clue cell. Upon the first glance, mukha siyang epithelial cell. Yes, it is still squamous epithelial cell. Ang pinagkaiba lang niyan sa non-pathologic type is the membrane, itong border natin, is covered with Coccobacillus. So yung Coccobacillus, yun yung Gardnerella vaginalis. So if Gardnerella vaginalis covers 70% of the membrane of the squamous epithelial cell, it can be classified already as clue cell. And therefore, nagkakaroon na siya ng pathologic significance. Pero yung normal naman na wala siyang cover, hindi natin siya pwedeng i-count as clue cell. So, nagiging non-pathologic siya kapag ganun. Okay, next, we have the transitional epithelial cells. So, transitional epithelial cells can appear in different shapes. Depende ulit yan class sa concentration ng urine. So, you have spherical, polyhedral, and caudate. So, the more na nagiging concentrated ang urine natin, dehydrated ang pasyente, nagiging caudate or lumiliit yung urothelial cell. Pero nagiging spherical siya, large, rounded, kapag syempre diluted or mababa ang specific gravity ng urine sample natin. And one way to describe urothelial cell is that they have a centrally located nucleus. So, pwede nyo gamitin kasi yung nucleus to differentiate this also from RTEs. Kasi ang RTE ay eccentric or nasa side ang nucleus nila. Now, urothelial cells are non-pathologic maliban na lang kapag nag-appear in clumps or overlapping na, sobrang dami. Ang tawag natin doon is syncytia. So, when you see syncytia sa microscope or clumping ng urothelial cell, they can indicate malignancy. But if the specimen came from a catheterized urine specimen, wala tayong problem doon. Kahit makakita ka ng synesthesia, if it is catheterized, no clinical significance. Pero kapag ang urine sample natin is like midstream or first morning or random or 24-hour urine sample, tapos nakakita ka ng synesthesia, it is probably an indication na may malignancy or something is wrong with the patient. So, kailangan pa natin siyang i-refer sa pathologist. Okay, so these are photos lang ha, para makita natin siya. So, transitional epithelial cells like this. Again, kapag ganyan, normal naman yan. So, yung kung ako ay medtech at i-read ko to sa isang microscopic field, ganyan yung number nila, ilalagay ko lang ay few. So, yan, it's sample. And then, ito, spherical. If your urine is diluted, they are large, rounded in shape. Centrally located nucleus. Okay, centrally located nucleus. And then, ito naman yung caudate. So, sabi natin, caudate is smaller teardrop shape kapag concentrated or dehydrated ang pasyente. And then, ito yung synesthesia class. Again, kapag catheterized ang specimen, normal yan. Makakita tayo niyan kasi it's like a sign of contamination lang. Pero kapag yan ay other types of specimen, it is indication of malignancy. So, synesthesia or clumps. Now, ano bang disadvantage kapag sobrang may clumps yung cells natin? Hindi lang urothelial, even squamous cell. Sabi natin, non-pathologic naman sila. Pero ang disadvantage nila is that pwede ka magkaroon ng false negative results, especially if they, if they cover yung mga may pathological significance. Like for example, sa ilalim nito, pwede may natatakluban sila na WBC or RBC. Yan. So, pwede tayo magkaroon ng false negative. Kaya kahit hindi po sila pathologic, hindi pa rin maganda na nakakakita tayo ng synesthesia sa mga urine specimen. So, kapag ganyan, you have to use another sediment or siguro mag-recollect yung patient and then mag-perform tayo ng urinalysis. Okay, next, the last type of epithelial cells we have RTEs. Okay, so the size and the shape of your RTEs vary depending on the area where they came from. Parang ano lang yan, parang urothelial cells din, okay? So this time naman, ang size and shape nila varies not because of the concentration but because of the location. So columnar kapag sila ay galing PCT, round kapag galing DCT, and then cuboidal kapag galing sa collecting duct. And again, sabi natin, RTEs are of pathological significance. Okay, so you have your PCT cells or your RTE cells na galing sa PCT, they are columnar. So this is an example of an RTE cell, columnar RTE cell, specifically PCT cells. Now, one challenge for this is that they may resemble urinary cast. So, kung kayo ay nakakita na or familiar na sa itsura ng urinary cast, mukha rin silang ganito. But the main difference is that ang RTE cells ay walang matrix or wala silang like a boundary or border line na makikita. It's like they are clumped lang. Ang cast kasi may makikita ka talagang overlaying na matrix kung tawagin natin or ground substance. So ito kasi wala. Plus, syempre, ang RTE natin ay may nucleus. Ang cast, wala po silang nucleus. So you can use that to differentiate them, ha? Yan, kalimitan kasi napapagkamalan silang granular cast or broadcast kung tawagin natin. So yan, presence ng nucleus you can use to differentiate them. And DCT cells. So DCT cells are rounded like this. Ayan, but based on the book, they can be mistaken as WBCs because of their shape. But if you will take a look at this picture, malayo naman yung size nila. So this is a WBC And then this is your RTE cells. So, mas malaki po yung RTE cells. And again, nucleus. Ang nucleus po ng RTEs ay eccentric. Ang nucleus ng WBC usually ay central. So, pwede natin gamitin yan to differentiate that. And then, the last type of RTEs, yan, collecting duct RTEs, they are cuboidal. Okay, or yan. And, yan, eccentric din yung nucleus nila. So, this is another example of collecting duct RTEs na nag-appear sa clumps. So, usually, ang PCT and DCT, hindi sila nag-appear as clumps. Pero kapag yan ay collecting duct RTEs, yan, madalas sila yung mag-appear as syncytia or clumps. Again, they are indicative of renal disease, pathologic. Yan. So, what is the clinical significance of RTEs? So, sabi natin kanina, RTEs may indicate severe tubular necrosis. So, hindi po siya basta-basta UTI lang na pwede natin gamutin. So, ito po ay nasa chronic stage na, necrosis type na yan. So, may nabubulok na yan na part. Okay, kaya kailangan very careful tayo kapag tayo ay magbibigay ng result tapos may RTE ka na makikita because yan, it indicates drug toxicity, heavy metal exposure, malignancies, poisoning, etc. And one way also to distinguish RTEs from the other cells is that they appear in different color because they can absorb pigmentation. So number one is bilirubin. So we mentioned that bilirubin is secreted in the urine sample if the patient has an early liver disease like hepatitis. And ang color ng urine sample ng pasyente na mataas ang bilirubin ay yellow, dark yellow. So kapag inabsorb ng RTEs ang bilirubin, the RTEs itself, they appear yellow in color. Pwede rin siya mag-absorb ng hemoglobin. Kapag may severe bleeding ang pasyente, yan, magiging pinkish or reddish ang color ng RTEs. It can also absorb lipids. So, ang tawag natin sa RTE na nag-absorb ng lipids ay oval fat body. So, di-discuss natin yan in a while. Okay, so these are the different, indications of RTEs, pathological significance. Okay, question so far. Pa-heart react nga ako kung na malinaw ang discussion. Wala na naman pasok bukas ha. Lugi na yung tuition fee nyo. Tapos pagbalik nyo, long quiz na, di ba? Sayang ang buhay. Sayang yung 1.6 per unit. Tapos online lahat. Ayan. So pagbalik nyo, long quiz, prelim. Magbibigay naman ako ng consideration. Siyempre, kayo pa ba? Okay, so let us proceed with oval fat body. So sabi natin, pag oval fat body, these are RTE cells that have absorbed lipids. So again, hindi lang po color ang kaya nilang i-absorb, lipids. At kapag ang patient ay nagsisecrete ng excess fat or excess lipid, yan, ang tawag natin dyan is lipiduria or chyluria. Diba? Pag sinabi na chyluria, milky urine sample. Okay, lipiduria, chyluria. Excess fats, excess lipid in the urine. And syempre, of course, may pathological significance yan. So, one way to check if what you see is an oval fat body is that, number one, refractile yan. Parang ano yan? Parang oil droplet or parang air bubble. Pero syempre, ang oil droplet and air bubble ay hindi po pathologic. So, ang oval fat body ay pathologic. Paano natin na-differentiate? You have to use a polarizing microscope. Ito kasi is bright field microscopy. So, kapag nakakita ka niya na parang mukha siyang droplet or bubble, syempre you have to cross-check. Gamit ka ng polarizing microscope, ito yung makikita mo. They will appear as, Maltese cross. Pag sinabing Maltese cross, para po siyang clover leaf formation. And we have three components ng oval fat body. So, ang oval fat body class ay composed of 3 types of fats. Number 1, cholesterol. Number 2, triglyceride. And number 3, neutral fat. So, pag sinabi natin oval fat body, parang general term yan. Para dun sa tatlong yun. Cholesterol, trigly, and neutral fat. Now, pwede natin actually ma-differentiate or ma-distinguish kung ano bang nakikita natin sa microscope. Kung yan ba ay cholesterol or yan ba ay trigly and neutral fat. So number 1, you have to use the appropriate stains for oval fat bodies, and we only use Sudan 3 stain and oil red O stain. So pag ginamitan mo yan ng Sudan 3 and oil red O, usually nasa orangey red ang kanyang color. Okay. Now, in-stain mo. Pag yun ay nag-stain, kagaya niyan, orange or reddish in color, it means that yung oval fat body na meron ka is composed only of triglyceride and neutral fat. Dalawa lang. Bakit? Kasi ang cholesterol po, hindi nagsistain yan. So kapag ang oval fat body mo ay cholesterol lang ang laman or ang component, kahit gumamit ka ng Sudan 3 or oil red, wala kang stain na makikita. So dito sa sample natin, since nag-stain yan, trigly and neutral fat lang ang laman yan. So halimbawa, nakakita ka ng refractile body sa bright field, tapos hindi naman nga siya nag-stain. Next step is, dun ka nagagamit ng polarizing microscope kasi ang cholesterol ay nagpo-polarize. Ang trigly and neutral fat, hindi po yan nagpo-polarize. So pag gumamit ka ng polarizing microscope, ganyan po yung makikita nyo. So yan, polarized, ganyan. So ibig sabihin, walang trigly, walang neutral fat, pero may cholesterol. So that is how you differentiate or distinguish yung laman ng oval fat body. Again, neutral fat and trigly, they stain orange red, and cholesterol, they polarize. And this is indicative of lipiduria. So lipiduria is an indication of nephrotic syndrome. Ibig sabihin ay sira na yung glomerular membrane mo, nagsisecrete ka na ng mga large substances kasi hindi normal na makakita tayo ng lipid sa urine. Tatlong cells lang yan. The 3 largest substances na hindi natin dapat makita, blood cell, protein, lipid. So yan tatlong yan ang pinakamalalaking cells or substances. Kaya kapag nagkaroon ka ng excess lipids, yan, nephrotic syndrome, may sira ka sa glomerular membrane, severe tubular necrosis, diabetes also, and other trauma cases na nag-i-impair sa glomerulus and renal tubing. So, may lipiduria, and then yung kanina nga, kapag sobra yung nagiging milky yung urine, chyluria yun. Okay, sperm cell, spermatozoa. Normal ba na makakita tayo ng sperm cell sa urine? O for boys, minsan, may sumasamang sperm cell, di ba? Siyempre, pag babae, nakita natin ng sperm cell sa urine, nag-good time ang babae. Kaya nakitaan natin ng sperm cell. So, hindi po normal yan, ha? Maliban na lang kung may asawa yan. Pero kapag wala, ibang usapan na yan. Ang lalaki ang urine class ay toxic sa sperm. Kaya kapag nakakita tayo ng sperm cell sa urine, ay madalas patay na yan. Kasi toxic yan sa sperm cell. Now, may mga cases class na hindi normal na makakita tayo ng sperm cell sa lalaki. Lalo, number 1, pwede siya mag-indicate ng infertility sa lalaki. Or yung tinatawag natin na retrograde ejaculation. Pag sinabi natin retrograde ejaculation, normally kasi pag nag-ejaculate ang lalaki or nag-secrete ng kanyang seminal fluid, lumalabas yan sa urethra. Pero pag sinabi natin retrograde ejaculation, as stated here, the sperm cells are expelled into the bladder, not the urethra. Kaya sumasama po siya sa urine. Kaya minsan, nag-iiba yung consistency ng urine. Kaya yung urine din, they can appear cloudy or milky because of the presence of sperm cell. So again, rarely significant naman yan. Depende lang yun sa pagre-report ng laboratory. No clinical significance maliban sa infertility and retrograde ejaculation. Maliban na lang kapag nakita natin yan sa urine ng bata. So yun na po yung legal consequence and a possible child abuse or possible rape case pag sa bata yan. So pag ganyan, syempre you have to refer your result not only sa doctor pero sa possible let's say police, ganyan, or sa abogado for further checking kung may nangyayari ba talaga. Okay, bacteria. So bacteria is not commonly seen in the urine sample, especially if the urine is fresh. But if your urine sample has been long-standing, has a delayed processing, not preserved properly, not refrigerated, then of course you'll expect bacterial growth. Kaya dumadami yung bacteria. So marami tayong types ng bacteria na pwedeng makita. It can be cocci or bacilli. But most commonly, ang nakikita po natin is Enterobacteriaceae. Kaya Staphylococcus, Enterococcus, yan yung mga common bacteria na nakikita natin sa microscope. And ang urine, wala dapat bacteria yan. Pero yun nga, sabi natin, sometimes, they can be contaminated on the way out. Like for example, kapag gumamit ka ng catheterized urine specimen, so external contamination from the catheter itself. Pero kapag yan ay sterile collection, like suprapubic collection, wala ka dapat makita na bacteria. So kapag may nakita kang bacteria, it indicates infection. So these are the common bacteria na makikita natin. Again, Enterobacteriaceae, Staphylococcus, and Enterococcus also. And, okay, remember this. Madalas kasi class, kapag tayo ay nakakita ng WBC, ina-equate natin agad siya as UTI. So, tandaan nyo class, hindi porke may WBC po sa urine ng pasyente, ay UTI na yon. Kino-consider lang natin yan or kina-classify lang natin yan na UTI kapag ang pasyente ay may WBC at may bacteria. Kapag po may WBC pero walang bacteria, hindi po UTI yon. Ibang klase ng infection yon. Okay, tandaan po yan kasi yan ang madalas na misconception natin sa UTI. Basta makakita ka ng WBC infection, UTI yan. Pero hindi. Kailangan may makita kang bacteria plus WBC to qualify it as UTI. Bacteria bacteria lag. Yeast. So, na-mention ko to kanina sa RBC. This is one of the mistakes, di ba, ng medtech. Napapagkamalan nating yeast ang RBC. But, hindi dapat kasi wala namang buds ang RBC. So, ang yeast kasi class, ayan, meron siyang budding, kagaya niyan, yan, budding. And then, minsan, may mycelial forms din yan. Yan, parang branching. Madidiscuss niyo yan sa mycology, virology. So, yeast cells, ayan. So, wala naman ganyan ang RBC, no? Kaya hindi mo siya pwedeng mapagkamalang ganyan. Now, ang yeast cell ba ay may pathological significance? Yes, meron po, ha? Ang yeast cell po ay madalas na makita natin sa urine ng mga, number 1, kapag may yeast infection ka, Candida albicans. Okay, example natin yan ng fungi, kay yeast na pwedeng makita sa urine ng diabetic. So kapag ang pasyente class ay diabetic, expect tayo ng positive sa yeast yung mga yan. Bakit ba positive sa yeast ang urine ng diabetic? Kasi po, ang yeast, ang favorable environment for its growth is number 1, pag mataas ang glucose, at number 2, acidic ang urine. Eh di ba sabi natin, ang diabetic, ma-acidic ang urine ng mga yan. Tapos syempre, pag diabetic ka, may excess secretion ka ng glucose sa urine. So, yung environment na yun sa urine, yun ay favorable for the yeast growth. Kaya ideal yan sa kanila. Kaya nagpa-positive ang reading natin sa yeast for diabetic patients. And syempre, ayan, pag may vaginal infection ka, may yeast ka, hindi po normal yan. Ibig sabihin, yan yung hygiene ng pasyente. Yan, hindi kasi normal na may yeast ka sa vaginal orifice mo. Contamination yan or possible rin na sexually transmitted disease rin. Yung yeast infection or vaginal candidiasis kung tawagin natin. Okay, parasites. Okay, so common parasites. Diniscuss natin ito sa parasitology. Yan, Trichomonas vaginalis because it is a sexually transmitted disease. Kaya kapag ganyan, diba, trichomoniasis, hindi po fecal sample. Okay, instead, urine sample ang tinitingnan natin. Schistosoma hematobium. So, bakit schistosoma hematobium? Because this is a bladder parasite. Remember, bladder parasite, hindi po natin nakikita yan sa sa intestines, 'di ba, or sa blood. So, sa urinary bladder ang final habitat niyan. Kaya pwede siyang sumama sa urine. And then, Enterobis vermicularis also, most common kasi saan ba nakatira ang Enterobius? 'Di ba sa perianal region. So, kapag minsan dumudumi yung pasyente or yan, may sumasamang contaminants from the anus, palabas 'di ba sa urine, yan pwedeng magkaroon ka ng contaminant na yan. But take note ha, may nabasa lang rin ako somewhere na ang mga parasite ova, hindi po yan sumasama basta-basta sa urine. Kalimitan, yung last few drops ng urine natin, doon natin sila nakikita. Kaya minsan negative tayo sa parasites, lalo kapag midstream clean catch, hindi na natin tinatapos yung urination, negative yan. Pero may mga cases class na kapag tinapos mo yung urination, dun sa last few drops, dun po sumasama yung parasites. Kaya pwede kang mag-positive pa rin. So may mga cases na kailangan nating tapusin yung entire urination natin at isama yung last few drops na pwedeng samahan ng parasites. And then mucus. So mucus cells are non-pathologic. Okay, these are common. These are from proteins na galing po sa gland, sa epithelial cell, sa RTE. So, syempre, iba yung RTE ha, iba yung usapan na yun. So, kapag yan ay protein na lang, like yung normal naman, di ba, na meron tayong, tawag dito, vaginal fluids, or like prostate fluid na sumasama, may mga protein content yung mga yan yung pwedeng mag-form ng mucus threads. At ang mucus threads, madalas yan sa babae, wala po yung clinical significance. Again, maliban na lang po kung patong-patong na yan at nakaka-obscure na yan dun sa mga may pathological significance like RBC and WBC. And madalas mapagkamala natin tong squamous epithelial cell because of their irregular shape. But the difference between these dun sa mga epithelial cell natin is wala po silang nucleus kasi hindi naman sila cell. Threads lang yan, mucus threads lang. Okay, so wala po silang nucleus and then ang epithelial cell syempre ay may nucleus. Okay, so that ends my presentation for tonight. Ayan, any questions? Thumbs up ako kung wala pong questions before I proceed sa last reminder for next week. Okay, sige. So, thank you class for listening. I will be uploading this sa Brightspace now. Just a few reminder for next week. Lecture. So, based on our schedule, next week will be your long quiz. Okay? Supposedly, may quiz dapat tayo today, short quiz for our on-site topics like renal function and chemical exam, di ba? Sinabi ko? Nasabi ko ba? Oh, yun. So, meron dapat tayong quiz ngayon. So, hindi siya natuloy. Kaya next week, dalawa po yung quiz nyo. Isang short quiz at isang long quiz. So, short quiz, ang coverage lang natin sa short quiz ay dalawa. Renal function and chemical exam. Hindi po kasama yung diniscuss natin ngayon, ha? And then, long quiz will cover all topics online and on-site. And, as I've said, kung hindi pa po kayo tapos sa online, you have to read your reference book, ha? Kasi, kasama na po siya sa long quiz natin. For your long quiz, it is 50 items, zip grade type. And then for your short quiz, ano siya, halo-halo. Pwedeng identification, multiple choice. Yan, depende. Okay, 2 topics lang yan. And then for your laboratory naman, hindi tayo nakapag-perform ng di ba? Nakapag-discuss ako sa inyo ng physical exam ng urine. Online lang rin yata yun, no? Oo, kasi suspended rin yun. And then kanina, si Doc Andy nag-discuss ng reagent strip. So, na-cover naman namin lahat ng i-cover. Hindi lang tayo nakapag-perform ng experiment itself. But anyway, pwede naman natin siyang isama kasi sa sa midterm. Come midterm, yung unang session natin doon, madali lang naman to. Like 30 minutes, kayang tapusin to. Isasama na lang natin siya doon sa, parang glucose determination yata yung unang topic natin for midterm. Doon na lang natin isasama yung procedure. So, this coming Thursday, kung kayo ay kung may ipasok na at hindi naman na-suspended, ang laboratory po natin ay long quiz na. So, long quiz po natin ay PowerPoint type, multiple choice, all topics. Okay, specimen collection, physical exam, and urine reagent strip. So, 3 topics lang. And then, for your lab prelim exam, rin po tayo first come, first serve sa schedule. So, syempre, sinasabay po natin yan sa prelim week. So, na lang, kapag may schedule na kayo ng exams nyo at may vacant time kayo, doon na lang tayo mag-exam ng laboratory. Hindi naman yan uubos ng 2 hours. Siguro 1.5 hours lang for 2 batches. And preferably ay hapon lang rin hanggang sa paggabi. Like, ayun, hanggang 8:30 lang siguro ulit. Yes, Kim. Short quiz, how many items? 16. 16. 16 items. Okay, no more questions? Clarifications? Okay, kung wala na pong questions and clarifications, class, for the sake of our attendance monitoring, I'll be requesting you to stay in the Google Meet until 8:30. Kung okay lang po, ha? Stay lang tayo ng 8:30 dito kasi we're being monitored by the HR, yung ating attendance, ha? Sa long quiz po, ilang items? 16 nga. Hindi, sa long quiz, 50. 50. 50. Zip grade. Sa long quiz, 50 items, zip grade. Sa short quiz, 16. 16. Okay, so stay lang tayo hanggang 8:30. You can eat your dinner na, ha? And I'll be uploading this sa Brightspace. Thank you, class.